All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to be going over the last assignment from everyone. I'll make some comments and then we'll move on to today's work. Okay. Hold on. Okay. You can see the screen. All right. So you can see my screen here.
Yes.
All right. So this Famila Modi. All right, so let's have a conversation about your assignment really quickly before we move on. Okay. Number one, this is obviously postmodernism, yeah. Hello, Femi. Are you there?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I said this is obviously postmodernism, yeah.
Yes, please.
Cool. All right. So you have your fonts, you have your icon, you have your text, you have your image, you have your subheader, and then you have your main body copy, and then all these interesting elements, right? I think my only challenge right now is the use of the color on the background. The background color is not a postmodernism color. And many of these colors you're using are not postmodernism colors, all right? Most postmodernism colors are primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. And then you see a lot of black and white, and definitely not pink, green, purple, orange, those kind of things. That's one of the first things, right? The second thing is obviously like this is the hierarchy of this place is interesting in the sense that you segmented all these things and you brought them down, right? But why is this in a different font from all of this? And then this is center aligned, and then all these are left aligned, right? Left aligned, left aligned, left aligned. Everything's aligned here, and then this is in the middle. All right. Except what you're trying to do is to bring this to, all right. Then it won't be as postmodernist as you should look, right? Because it's then getting to orderly. But just make those mental notes. Also, for this guy, this space that is hanging in here, right, is not typical. You probably want to bring it down, right, to just make it feel like it's flushing with the album launch. Okay. And then
Okay.
so yeah, this place needs a lot of work. Stick to one type of font. Change this. Well, so obviously this looks like just you placed an image, right? And I mean, because of the style, the postmodernism, it might work, right? But yeah, so I think we should just leave that, right? But just arrange this place properly. Then, if you're doing center, do center. If you're doing middle, do middle. For this is probably something you want to do that like this. So where you have this rectangle elements.
Come and see your album launch. Come and see your album launch banner.
Abisola, I think you can hear your voice. All right, so bring this. Well, no. So for this, you just where's rectangle? Oh, has been coming in since. Right. So bring this down, right? Then just do something similar to what you did here, right? Which is really nice, right? So what I'm doing now, I'm pressing Alt, so I'm duplicating it, right, by pressing Alt. So I'm just going to remove this, copy this, cut, right? Bring this down, double click the album launch, right? And then I'm going to ungroup this so that I can arrange it properly, stretch these ones out, right? Then reduce the size probably just for some hierarchy, so it's not competing with the major thing, right? And then you bring this down, right? And then you have this. So I wonder what this is doing here. I'm not sure, but yeah. And then this has more grunge type feel than postmodernism. So take note of this. Okay, so yeah, just make all those corrections. So obviously this is like your grunge, yeah. Now the problem with the grunge right now is I can see all your grunge elements, really interesting, but these are not grunge type of fonts. These are like what they call this type of fonts. These are like script fonts, right? So these are not the kind of font you use. Many of the characteristics of these things always lie in the types of fonts, the types of colors, the types of shapes, the types of patterns, the mode of arrangement. Now look at this, right? Obviously, this is a nice image, right? But it feels like it's floating and it doesn't look as cohesive as it should look. Okay, so what you want to do in this kind of case is maybe bring this in such a way that like you can actually like put this, you can actually do something like this where you have this. Okay, let me just duplicate this, right? You can do, because you want it to be cohesive, you don't want to just make it look like you are creating a collage of different things, right? So you can bring this into the middle, right? Enlarge it, right? Bring this down, okay, and then just create another circle, right, that covers this place and doesn't make it look like you added some weird shapes. And I think one of the things that you got right with the grunge is the texture. The texture is very uneven, right? So that works, right? So yeah, we have this, okay? And you want this to flush with the circle that you have here. So it feels like it's like almost at the center, right? And then, so for this, you might even want to use a frame so that you can insert a picture in it, right? And that's how you can achieve some type of effects, right? So imagine we have this as a picture, and then I'll search for, okay, or you know what, I'll just come to elements. I can actually put an image of like a CD here and just give it this, like a, instead of that, I can also find an image, right? So like CD or disc, right? So this is free, right? Obviously, this doesn't have a grunge feel, so I want to look for something that has a more grunge feel, right? So I think this will work, right? So I'm just going to reduce it. Still loading. Right, so one of the major work that you actually need to do is creating a composition for your design, right? Ensuring that different things are in different places, like, and they're at the right place, okay? Now, obviously, this is covering his guitar, so it might not have the exact same effect that we're trying to create, but I'm just trying to help you see how you can actually like play around with the different elements and make something nice out of it. Or because you don't want, so the major problem with this thing is like it feels like it's cutting out. So if you don't want to look like it's cutting out, you need to add something to it to make it look like it's not cutting out. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I was thinking, so except only if I put this, use the what's it called? Is that what you're saying?
The what? Come again?
I said, except only if I take out the image of the disc and maybe enlarge the man, the image of the man, of the musician.
You don't even have to take out the you don't even have to take out the disc. Well, you can do that actually, but I'm right now I'm trying to see if I can even work with the disc.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to find a brush. Okay, right. So this obviously has a grunge feel, right? And now what I'm doing is I'm covering this edge So it feels like he's coming out of this thing. Can you see the difference between what it was and what it is now by just merely adding this element? Do you get?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So those are the kind of things I expect you to be doing to make your design look more cohesive, more coherent, and not just look like you picked up things and just copied and pasted them and, you know, and all of that, right? So obviously the font is one of the major challenges. Because of time, I won't be able to go over everything, but just give you an idea of what you really need to do. Okay. I'm guessing this is your minimalist, yeah?
Yes.
So obviously it looks as minimalist as it can be, but minimalist designs, like for example, if it was this minimalist, you will not have this image. Why do you have this image if it's a minimalist design? Right? Your design style is already looking as simple as it should be, right? So if everything is in white outlines, you want to keep this in the same thing. Okay. So instead of doing this, just come to elements and search Instagram logo, right? Download a free one or import a free one, change the color to white, right? And replace it with what you have here. Yeah, and another thing that you want to do to keep this thing simple is write everything on the same line except this one, because you have to remove this, right? So it's going to just help you and ensure that the spacing here is the same. Now that we can do that, so we're just going to move on. You can see here that obviously all of these have been left, and then this is center aligned. Okay, so if you want to do this properly, right, center align everything. Center align everything, then position everything to be center aligned as well, right? And then center align this as well. So this one is that. So you have everything positioned to the center. What's happening? Oh, position to the center of the page. So I'm just going to drag this because I've centered everything, right? And this is obviously from the internet, right? So it's why you got this image from the internet, yeah?
Yes.
Good, right? So it's obviously something you will see on Canva. So it makes your work more interesting. Another thing that you want to do is, if you're doing minimalist, this thing coming to the edge, like it feels like immediately I introduced the styles, everybody forgot all the principles of design I've been teaching since morning, right? Because it feels like all those ones feels like they are defined laws, and now we can just defy everything, right? That's not what's
Sure.
okay. So if you're doing that, your fonts need to be like you won't have this funny, well, not funny, but if this is, you won't have two different fonts, like you have the same type of font. Yeah. So like, and then your spacing will be the same. Look at the space between here and look at the space between these two, right? Those tiny things. And then now there's no hierarchy because it feels like it's Kokomo Never Die Gang. Meanwhile, Kokomo is supposed to be one thing, Never Die Gang is another thing. So whatever the style you are working with, you need to still have your hierarchy because it's a poster eventually. And this is what I was trying to explain yesterday. You're not just trying to depict a style, you're still trying to communicate an idea. You're only using the medium with a different type of style. So you maintain every principle as much as you can, right? So like hierarchy, like proximity,
Line.
like contrast, those things are standard, okay? So if you're doing this, you want to retain the exact same font all through, right? Let's say horizon, right? And then never die gang. Let's say we use horizon outline for this one, right? Now just reduce the line spacing, okay, and then reduce the size of the font because it's almost comparing, like, so it's one of two things. You either make never die gang the biggest thing, or you make Kokomo the biggest thing, right? Obviously, this is not going to work because it's too faint. So I'm just going to change this font. You can still use horizon, right? Just in maybe white, because now I see that you're sticking to 3 colors. Okay. So y for everything, right? Now I'm going to reduce the size of this. Okay, so let's assume that Kokomo is the name of the artist. Then position center, right? And then you center align them, right? And then never diagram. Okay. So you still need to now for this kind of thing, since you have two lines, you might as well just bring these two to be on the same line and bring them here, right? And still work with you can still create some contrast by making this bold, right? Or by making, making one element in it bold. So like maybe date, bold, right? Time, bold, venue, bold, right? What this does is it helps the viewer to see the information they are looking for much quicker, quickly, right, than before now, right?
So a quick question, please. So when I'm left aligning,
Yeah.
does that mean the tickets available would also be at the left?
Yes, most likely if you're using this exact style, yes.
Okay. I was thinking since it was separate from, that was my thinking earlier, that since it's different from the others, it would stand out and just be at the middle. That was why I did that way. But I know better.
Yeah, that's possible, but in this case, there are no other elements in your design that create a separation between two of them. So in the eyes of in visually, it still feels like they are from the same line, right? So imagine that you had the same design and there was maybe an element that created a division line that then makes it look like the next thing is starting afresh, then it can work. Do you get?
Okay. Yes.
Exactly.
I understand you now.
Exactly. So, and then another thing, one problem we're having is this thing, right? This thing always makes your design look tacky. So what you want to do is introduce an element that makes it look like it's budging from there. So another thing that you can even do for this is if you're sticking to these three colors, right? Instead of keeping this thing like this, come here, insert a rectangle. Right? And then make this black. Okay. So it feels like it's rising up from this. Do you see? Can you see like the big difference that this is making? The fact that this guy doesn't feel like he's hanging up there.
Yes.
Do you understand? So something as simple as that is like really, really important. If you have images like that, except you are using like a collage style, when it's like maybe postmodernism or all of these type of things. But if it's like a basic, simple, minimalist style, ensure that you don't have those kind of element, those kind of things in your design. All right. So what style is this? Swiss. Lamodi, what style is this?
It's supposed to be 3D.
It's supposed to be 3D. Okay. But we have 2D elements here, so it doesn't look 3D at all, right?
You're no longer seeing your screen.
You're not seeing my screen. You should show
Please don't see
that.
the screen.
Okay, it was my fault. Sorry.
Okay. So number one, right? Many of the things I've said earlier about the alignment and hierarchy and all those things, right? And look at this thing, right? If next time, as a pro, just crop this thing, crop this design by PNG tree, right? You know how to crop. So don't leave those kind of things.
Yes.
These kind of things are a big deal, right? So just crop it out. And nobody's going to know that that's what you used, right? So those kind of things are very big. Now, the way this is just hanging here is what I don't understand, right? So I want you to, I think this was what it was, yeah? So next thing I want to ask is like, these elements, there doesn't seem to be any synergy. This rectangle, this thing here. So somewhere at the back of my mind, I'm assuming that, or I'm thinking that this is like maybe a division line between up and down, but it's just hanging there right under this heavy elements, and then you get. So if you want it to be 3D, then you use a lot of 3D elements, right? Like this is the only, this looks like the only 3D element here. Every other thing here is flat. And then this is flat, this is flat, this is flat, this is flat. So it doesn't exactly work as 3D. Maybe this is more like a mix of minimalist and just something interesting. So yeah, basically the same similar rules apply here. This is futurism. What are the elements of futurism that are obvious here? Let's go over it. Look at the texts, right? Or like just like Dara did. You also want to go online, see many other things that they do, right? If you compare what we have here to what we might be having here, sorry, there doesn't seem to be a lot of similarity, right? Because I'm seeing like a lot of curved elements as opposed to straight, elements, right? So that's something that is not exactly what futurism should look like. This is a lot of things to unpack. So because of time, I'm just going to move on. All right. Okay, so this is a logo design, right? Mabasi, really simple, centralized, don't forget. Simple, word mark, right? This is a word mark with an emblem-ish, right? Now, what you want to do for this kind of thing is, one of the basic things that you can already see here is the hierarchy. Not hierarchy, sorry, is the alignment. It's not center aligned. You can see there's space here between T and this thing, and then there's no, like, it feels like Y is already getting to the middle here. So first thing, position everything center, right? You can see that's kind of adjusted already to a large extent, but now that's not even enough. I need the space to be more. So enlarge this so that it feels more breathable, and then people can actually see the text. Okay. Another thing that you might want to do is to make the text bold if possible, because it feels very outer light. So maybe you want to change. Okay, there's no outer bold. Okay, so let's use outer, right? Because it's bolder. Now, the reason why is because you see these things are two separate lines, and then these lines are almost the exact same width with these lines. So that's a problem. It will be difficult for the name to stand out. The curves and the lines will submerge the thickness of this line. So that's something you want to watch out for. So my suggestion will be change all the text to outer so that they are bolder and so that you can see them. So if you notice here, it wasn't a problem because it's the only thing that is here and it's not competing with anything. But here, the text is competing with these lines because they are literally almost the exact same line width. Okay, so you don't want that to happen to your text. Okay, so ensure that you make the contrast good, because yeah, so center and middle align very sharp, right? And then right into the book, and then center align into the page. Okay, so there we have it. Much better than it was before. All right. And then this, now the problem with this, first of all, is the contrast is very, very, very poor, right? Poor in the sense that you can see this A. Remember when I was explaining contrast, I said is the degree of difference, right? So here there's obviously very, very low degree of difference between black and dark gray. I mean, here the contrast is bad, but it's, I mean, you can still see it somehow, but here it's just even much worse because of what's happening here. Number one. Number two is also the fact that it feels like M is entering this rectangle when it feels like the space is not, it's not well spaced, right? So this, if you're going to do that, right, you want to ensure that A, so what you want to do first of all is to take this down to a lower layer so that you can touch position, send to back, right? Now I can select this, okay? So my first suggestion would be, instead of doing that, right, you can just write Thelma, right? All right. Now, because I want the spaces to be equidistant, I want them to be equal. So I'm just going to increase the line spacing. Sorry, no line spacing, letter spacing, right? And then we don't have a lot of kerning issues because they are very nice sans fonts, right? So this is what it will look like. Okay. Now, my first suggestion will be to remove this shape, right? Because it is creating a terrible contrast. Except you want to change the color of this, change the color to light, very light gray, right? And then obviously there's some opacity, so let's just remove that. So we have very light gray. Now, it's obvious you can see the background, but the contrast is good enough for us to see what's happening here, okay? And then same thing with this. Now, what we do want to do is maybe reduce the opacity to 50 degrees, 50%, sorry, right? So it's going to be kind of light, all right? And then we do the exact same thing for this, change this to gray, and then reduce the opacity to 50. So it's still going to achieve the exact same thing you're trying to achieve, where you can see that there's an intersection between these two texts, these two shapes, right? Here I can see there's a kerning issue because of letter M, right? So we're just going to delete that, okay? Paste it, do M, right? How many of you saw the kerning issue? So I'm just going to,
Sorry, but I need to know, because I think one of the designs I tried to separate the letters individually, but how do I ensure that they're exactly the same distance? Is it still by this
that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Yeah, so because there's no ruler picture here, so you literally just need to make your own ruler, ensure that you have a good distance, right? So I'm just going to do this, right? You can see that the distance is sweet here, uh, sweet here. Now here's where we have the problem, okay? If you bring this to this place, it's not going to work because the space is too much. So you want it to be somewhere like here, right? Drag this to the right, yeah? Now, that's what kerning is about. It's about creating an optical beauty, right? If we're going to judge just by the length, this is where it will be. But if you look at it, you will see that it feels like the space here is too much because M is wide, so the length has come out, right? So I'm just going to use this side here to judge the distance, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing for here, and then bring A here, right? So this is what we have. Now that means that we're going to adjust this, okay? And then this as well. All right. So I'll select all of this and left align them, right? And then drag them to be aligned with this, okay? So there we go. Now that's number one. Number two, it's obvious that we can see that the space between these two should be the exact same space between these two. So what are we going to do? We're going to do the exact same thing we've been doing before. Create a ruler, use the ruler to make our measurement and ensure that we have the exact same distance between the text in the vertically, okay? So I'm just going to bring this here, right? As you can see, I'll drag the B first because the A needs to be where it is. Let me know if you're lost. Let me know if you're following. Let me know if you understand what's happening.
Following.
Okay, good. So I'm adjusting everything now so they can take the exact same height, right? Okay. So the texts are equidistant from each other. We are good to go. All right. So now I just need to adjust this and put it where it should be. So, there we go. Right. So there we go. Now, the only problem I have with the form of this logo, right, is the usability. When I say usability, I mean in the sense that, so when we make this a logo, for example, and we want to apply it, now it's one thing for you to have your logo in terms of I can see it and it looks nice. It's another thing for it to be applied when you're going to use it, because a logo is meant to be applied. So the challenge with a logo like this is how do you apply it in many cases? So for example, imagine we were going to have your logo somewhere at the corner of the design, right? It would be very, very, very difficult to see, right? Very difficult to see because it's usually not this big, it will most likely be smaller. Except every single time there's a minor amount of size that your logo can be, which is going to be problematic. All right. So personally, I wouldn't suggest using this as a logo. Okay.
Okay.
Same thing with this as well, because of the form. Because of the form, because it's both horizontal and vertical, it's difficult to fit it into one place. If it's vertical, for example, you know that when you have a design, you do your designs vertically so that your logo can be obvious. If it's horizontal, you know you create your designs horizontally so that your logo can still be more conspicuous as well. Right, so Thelma Bassi, TB, my suggestion will be, well, Thelma Bassi, so just maybe a little space between here and here, and then go centralize your, always centralize everything to the middle of the page. Very, very important. It will just make your work look tidy. Apart from the fact that it will be nice. Okay. So yeah, this is a simple combination mark. Right? Now, yeah, so I can see now you can change the color here, obviously. Yeah, so let's assume that because this is obviously a logo that work well in black and white. Well, not so well, because now you can't even see some parts. Do you get what I'm saying? Remember that time I was explaining how the logo needs to be able to work in black and white. This will not work in black and white, as you can see, because it's going to just be very, very kind of chaotic. Okay. So what you want to do for this kind of thing is, if you want to, are they grouped or is it just like this? Okay, just like this, right? So for this kind of thing, if you want to juxtapose it with an element, you have to ensure that your elements can be independent or they can do without touching it. Or even if they touch it in such a way that it's still going to be very obvious whatever is written under it. So these kind of things, start with using your colors in black so you don't miss out anything, right? So now TB, you can't really see TB very clearly, okay, because of what you have there, right? So how to achieve this is to either remove it, raise it up, or bring the texts to the left and right. Yeah, but definitely not in placing them together, juxtaposing or intertwining them, whatever the name is going to be called. All right. So because of time, I'm just to move on. So yeah, this is similar to the combination mark. It looks sharp. It looks fine actually. Except my only suggestion would be to bring down this so there's space. Okay. So it doesn't feel cramped up. And then the length of this thing shouldn't be too long, right? So now we'll center align everything and see. Okay, so because when this, if this is too long, for example, when you want to apply it, right, you will have to give allowance on the left and right for space, a space that would not contain any other text, which will make it more difficult for your text to be visible when they are made smaller. All right, so that's something I want you to look out for. Okay. All right, so this is another one, Thelma Bassi. Another thing I want you to do also is reduce the size of this. And why am I saying reduce the size of this? So that your text can show outside the circle. All right. It's much better this way because your text now has a what do they call that thing? The text can exist, right, without touching the circle, which is really important so that it's visible. When it's touching the circle, it's more difficult to read. All right. So obviously, you still need to do a lot of arranging of this so that they are more concentric and centralized, right? For this term, Abasi, you can see the intersection. If you turn this to black and you look at it, you'll see that it's not going to work because you can't see what's here, right? So you have to adjust this. All right. Suggestion will be just reduce this, bring it up, and make it what your logo is supposed to be, or bring this down, let them Abasi enter from here, right? And then the sequence will be obvious. The only problem or challenge in my face with this is the same thing that I mentioned earlier, which is application. All right, because the size of the logo is then going to need space both left and up, which will make it more difficult to take when it's smaller. All right. This is so many options. Same thing for this. The colors are not going to show if you make them in black and white. And one of the things I said earlier also is give it space, right? And I think this is too thick, right? So I think you should reduce the thickness, the line width. So maybe make it a 3 instead of 5 or 2. Okay, is everyone following? Is anyone lost? Do you have any questions so far? Also reduce the size as well, right? And then bring this down. Right, so this is not going to work obviously because of the colors, right? So you either remove one of the elements to ensure that you have, right now what this is going to look like is this is going to look like everything is just black. If you print it black and white, for example, this is what everything is going to look like. Okay, so you don't want your logo to look like this. So you either create a holo to ensure if you want to still maintain this form, you create a holo. Like by a holo, I mean, for example, okay, we're running
I guess it's depression.
exactly so that it's still very visible. Same thing here. Imagine this in black and white. The same thing is not going to work. You won't see some parts. Okay, so what you want to do is reduce the size of this, right? Bring it up. Lift them opacity where it is, since it's a word, right? Or might as well do it with the line. I don't know why the line is always there, right? So the line doesn't always have to be there. Right? It can be removed, and then because we want to conserve space, you can just reduce the size of this, okay? And then bring this up. Obviously, there's a little space between the icon and the there we go. Right, much simpler, much easier to apply. Same thing here. Now this looks off tangent. Okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1, 2, 3, they look consistent and this shows off. So I don't know what inspiration is, but it's something that's going to be visually disturbing, right? So ensure that you get that right. If you want to do something like this, just ensure that you have them about in the middle, because if you do it the way we did like this now, right? When we change everything to black, you see the exact same thing I was saying. Something's not there. All right.
Okay.
So bring this down, obviously, take this up. And you can see that the alignment, they're not aligned at all. So what you want to do is delete this instead of creating them individually. If you've made this, put this, then what you want to do is take this one and then flip it. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so we can't even flip this. Rotate this, right? So you have the one that's supposed to be here, right? And then group them together again. You duplicate, then you can rotate again, and you have the ones for this side. All right. So I'm just saying this so you can do it by yourself. Okay. So we're done, right? All right. So let me make some comments about these ones really quickly. Number one, I really like these patterns. Okay, they're very nice. Obviously, it's a premium thing, so if you want to buy it, just pay for the premium. But here you can see very easily. I think is the designer here. Good, yeah, are you online? Okay, she's not online. I'm just going to move on to the next one without taking time. Right, so I'm guessing this is a grunge style, whoever this is. Let me see. Dara, yeah.
Yes.
All right. So now, this looks like a modern grunge, right? Not like a classic grunge. And I see the synergy between like grunge and minimalist in the sense that you have very less elements, but you are maintaining the styles of grunge in the sense that the backgrounds are dark, they're very, very grungy, and you can see even the text you use is a grungy text as well, right? So it really works. Except for the purpose of the assignments, it was to go into the actual grunge, right? So this is like an adaptation of, this is like applying a grunge style in a more modern style, which is nice actually in terms of actual design. But for the purpose of the assignment itself, right, it should be more grungy, okay? More disorganizing in some sense, right? Yeah, so I'm guessing this is your postmodernism, yeah?
Yes.
All right. So I like the animation, by the way, really cool. And I like this text. Very, very, very brilliant. Very brilliant. And I like the diversity of how you use like actual stencil type of text, which is very, very consistent with postmodernism style of design. Right. NDG. I like how you did this as well, right? The only challenge that I have right now is the usage of color. And I feel like you repeated this element too many times. Okay, so it will then be visually tiring. All right, so I also like this. So another thing is the colors. Blue, yellow, red, for mostly blue, yellow, red. So you want to keep your colors within those colors. And then for this image, text on this background is very difficult to read. So it might have been good to do without that image, right? Keep this black, right? Then just you can just play around with these ones, right? For the sake of visual clarity, right? Another reason why you might not need this is because there are already many elements that are musical. There's a musician, there's sound tunes, there's these things already, right? There's now a speaker again. Okay. So another thing you might want to do, which is not, if this was a regular design and you're going to work on it, right? And it was not necessarily to achieve the exact postmodernist feel, right? What I would have said you should do is just create a dark rectangle, put over this so that text can show, right? Except the black text won't show, of course. So you have to change everything to white, all right? Because people need to be able to see what you've done. Okay, so those are some of the major comments. What style is this?
American kitsch.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So for the American kitsch, right? Another thing that you also want to notice is I know that many of those fonts are not very available and it's not easy to freestyle on Canva in terms of fonts, right? This style looks more cubist than American kitsch. American kitsch is more grotesque in the sense that there's a lot of playing with proportions as well. And but this is a good attempt in sense of a regular design, right? This is a nice design that works. And I like what you did here, playing with the different elements to achieve the same thing, right? To make it look like it was one. Okay, really, really clever. Okay, I can see that now. I can see that, right? So yeah, another thing that you can also notice here is that this, oh, this is an image from the internet actually. I thought it was an element. Oh, so it's an image from the internet actually, right? So you can see here, this cutting out, it looks very, very, very weird. It's not consistent with American kitsch. American kitsch is more, there's those elements of cutting and pasting are more postmodernism style, okay? And then the font is obviously not consistent with the American kitsch style, right? And I understand because sometimes I think it's difficult to find those exact fonts, and it's also difficult to create new ones. All right, so let me just move on. I love this. I love this actually. I love this. I love this Art Deco. The only challenge that I have right now is the type of font and the color of the font, right?
It's 22 hours.
Okay, thank you for the information. So for this font, right, I like the image on the background, very, 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 very Art Deco-ish, right? So the only problem that I have right now is the font. If it was Art Deco, it would be definitely centralized, right? You most likely use white here because you want the text to be really clear, and you're also most likely going to use a very, very bold type of font, not necessarily like bold in terms of width and thickness, something like this, but most likely longer. If you see most Art Deco designs, their text, they hardly use like short text, they use a lot of long text. If you see high rise, I feel like a lot of things are usually on the high side, right? So maybe something like Bebas would work better, right? For the purpose of for the purpose of Art Deco. Okay. I mean, it's not perfect, like perfectly Art Deco, but it's more Art Deco than what we have there, right? So same thing with this. We'll probably use this, and then obviously reduce the line spacing so that they're not too close to each other. Okay. And then obviously make them bigger as well. And then this arrangement, if you notice here, your text is not very clear, right? The aim of most of these movements is not to make things unclear. Even if they are seeming chaos, there's order, and you can read what you want to read when you want to read them, right? So obviously the contrast here is really poor. You can't read this text very well, right? So that's something else to work on. Because of time, I'll move on. What style is this? Dara, are you there? Hello, Dara, are you there? Okay, I'm just going to move on, right? Premium fabric. This is
Hi, dear.
oh,
I'm here. Sorry for the breaking show. That was meant to be punk, but I don't know what came up. The elements on Canva were not giving me like music vibes.
So for this kind of thing, you most likely go online and find those kind of elements, right? Find PNG files, find the same way. See what you did here with this Art Deco thing. I'm sure this is an image that's on the back, right? And it fulfills the exact purpose. Okay, so for this, right? Although the major work would actually have been in creating something that looks similar, like instead of using an image, right? Now, and obviously, the point of the assignment is you don't have to reinvent it. If something exists already, you can adapt it, right? But if you want to go the hard way, you can make something like this on Canva, right? But that's beside the point at this point. Okay, so because for punk, right, if you remember, I said a lot of times they usually have photo treatments. There's no photo treatment here, right? So photo treatment with a picture, and then many times photo treatment would be like a monochromatic photo treatment. So like maybe white into pink, white into black, and then pink text, or white into red and then black text, that type of thing. It's not, punk is not usually this colorful, right? And their texts are obviously more, scattered than this, right? So that's that. Oh, I can see, I couldn't see the names there. So yeah, let me move on to the next one. Premium fabric. So this is a nice logo. I like it because it's very clean, straight to the point. And you can also see the name. Well, I think the only challenge that I'm having right now is, I know it's premium, but this font is not very clear. But I feel like when people see it, it would naturally register as premium, right? So that might not be a problem. All right. The only challenge I'm having right now is that this lady is not centralized. Okay. Or if she was centralized, she was not centralized to this circle, she was centralized to the whole thing. And I like how you added these two things here. It looks like it's an actual element, but it was added, which is really beautiful. I love that, right? So so we have this, we have the premium fabrics. It works perfectly in black and white. When you add your colors, it's also going to bang. So I love this. This is good. Well done. All right, who is this? Let's go over your assignment really quickly. Boom. All right, so what style is this?
This was latest
Okay, this is what?
assignment.
Yeah, what style?
What style?
Yeah, you know, in the assignments, they had different styles.
Okay.
Do you remember?
I don't think so. I don't.
So this is most likely Art Deco, because I remember in Art Deco, it was a
Art
sheet.
Deco. Yes.
Right. So the challenge
Yeah.
with this is that the now watch if you remember what was in that design, in the design I shared earlier, right? In the Art Deco design, let me show you. Right. You notice that so number one, this is the image I shared, right? Okay. And this is what you did. Now, because this is Art Deco, okay, I understand the fact that you had to use this image, right? Yes, I'll excuse that, right? But another thing that you'll also notice is the arrangement of the text, right? They were not this close to the edges, okay? And then I can see the use of gradients, actually, which is brilliant, which you actually try to apply here, except the problem is you see that the gradient here, there's a sharp contrast here between the end of the image and the beginning of the text. Okay, so what I'll have expected is instead of a gradient like this, right? Let me duplicate. Instead of a gradient like this, you would have a darker color here, right? And then here you have a brighter color, much brighter. Let's see. Okay, so not just this, actually something much darker, right? Now, just to create that sharp contrast, and maybe you should actually just even blend into white, right? So I don't know why this gradient is looking like this. Oh, okay, this is not the whole gradient. So it was cropped. Okay, so personally, if you notice this gradient was a straight gradient, so I'm just going to come to elements and search for a straight gradient, right? Okay, this is a straight gradient, right? All I need to do is rotate this. Okay, so now it's 90. I'm going to change this color to the really dark blue that I used, and then I'll change this to the white. Okay, and I'll achieve what I was trying to achieve with this. All right, so I'm going to delete this. Oh, it's a rectangle. We cannot just. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to crop it. Which is what you did. You can see that now. Yeah. So right. Another thing now, personally, I would not suggest doing that, right? As good as it seems, right? My suggestion would be to actually, because if we do that, it will be difficult to achieve this, right? What we need to do is to use an actual rectangular shape, right? So let's use a shape, say rectangle, right? That's adjustable. Okay. And we'll do what we're trying to do with this, right? Okay. Now, why did you keep this text this close to the edge?
Because okay. I don't have an excuse.
Okay, so and then if you notice here, almost every single text are in caps. That's consistent with Art Deco. All right. So obviously that now it means that we're going to have like white text because of the background. Okay. And then if we're having any color that is not white, let's say we want to make this a little darker. If we're having any color that is not white, it's going to be like light blue. Okay. But personally, I think it will be better to change this color to something different, something that contrasts with the color that we have in a very interesting way that is not terrible. Okay, so nothing is doing that for me right now. I'm just going to stick to the blue. Okay. And that's because this image is really blue, right? So if this image had like other interesting colors that we could use, so like this color, I think we could have used this color of this thing here. So I'm trying to centralize this now. All right, so obviously all caps, effects, not effects, all caps, right? And obviously not this kind of font, most likely a font like that. If you notice, the font is a long font, right? So oh sorry, text. Beras is not the only type of font that looks like this, so you can find a different one if you like. I'm just very familiar with this, so easy or something. All right, so now the exact same thing is going to happen, and then you can then start to, whose mic is that? Edna, can you mute your mic? Okay. Where's the sound coming from? Okay, okay, that's what it is. Right. So now all you need to arrange, like the work here, the work is now in arranging your text. Okay, so you need to have to reduce this so that it doesn't feel crammed up, cramped, right? And then for this, instead of writing Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you can actually just use the icons, all right? And just keep them there. Okay. And obviously, because it's Art Deco and I like this font, right? So you're just going to keep them in all caps, right? Same thing here, all caps, right? Because it's Art Deco, okay? For no other reason. Okay, now it feels like we're using three different fonts. This is Telegraph, Bebas, Open Sans. All right, so I'm just going to stick to two, Bebas and Telegraph. All right, so I'm just going to use Bebas for this, and then Bebas for this as well. Right. If you see what I'm doing, I'm creating like an interesting difference. Bebas, Telegraph, then Bebas, right? So everything center aligned, then I position everything to the center and I align them into the center, and then we have our nice hierarchy, our nice alignment, sorry. Okay, so now all I need to do is just arrange them properly. Okay, and then I can then change some colors just mildly. to make sure that they're still very clear, even if I'm using the exact same color, right? It's kind of like a monochrome. Okay. Or I can pick a color from here, maybe like this reddish color, right? But I also want to use a nice monochrome color, right? That's not going to be distracting. Okay. So yeah, there you go, right? Register for cohort 2, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The Serif continues in June. Teach.com. Master the art of design in 1 month. I actually really like this. This is very nice. Well done. I really like this. This is very, 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 very nice. Very, very nice. And if you check what I sent in earlier, this is a very nice adaptation, right? Okay, no time. So yeah, that's a very nice adaptation. Okay. Same with this. Obviously, this is postmodernism, right? And I see how this is actually very, 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 very similar to what was sent in, which is really cool. And it's very, 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 very what do they call it? Very, very postmodernist, and I really like it. My only comments or my only adjustments would be nothing actually. I think this is fine. Based on the assignment that I gave you. Yeah, it was good. And here, very similar as well, except you see now. Let me show you the design I sent, and you'll notice something very interesting, right? Sorry, I didn't need to duplicate. I meant to add. All right. Number one, you weren't supposed to exactly like duplicate it. Okay. I mean, it's okay that you did. You didn't have to reinvent the wheel, right? But I expected more of like an adaptation, right? So something maybe very, very similar, but not exact. Okay. Now, what could have been done here obviously is different types of shapes, right? Not different types of shapes that are not coherent, but understanding the coherence in the difference of shapes and try a different series of shapes, maybe with a different set of colors. Okay. And then here, right, if you look at what's happening here, you can see that this thing flushed to this edge. So here, you see here, we have this sharp edge, we have another sharp edge here, we have another sharp edge here, and then here, this place is just like this. So in this case, you want to align to the right for the purpose of keeping the angle right. Do you understand? Because the alignment here is right angle, right angle, right angle, and then right angle. Okay. Okay. So, and then, yeah, so we have this, right? That's something that I just wanted to highlight. So well done, well done, well done, well done. This is a good attempt. Yeah, this is a nice adaptation actually. I like this. Who's this? Mary, well done. This is a nice adaptation actually. I really like this. I really like this. So watch. Personally, I would say let's just like assume that this is the full background. Okay, you know, let me duplicate this so you can have the original design. Right. Okay. Now the right angle concept, right, which is what was being maintained there. So now I'm just going to stretch this out to ensure that it's right in the middle. Position in the center, which it is really delicious. The only other thing that I want to comment on is space, right? So the Serif continues in June is too close to register for cohort 2. Okay, so I'm just going to, okay, created an overlay. Nice. So I'm just going to do this. Okay. And then another thing is I'll reduce the size of this so that it's more readable inside the box. Okay. And then personally, I would have preferred this particular box to be this color. Why? So that the contrast is really, really, really high. Okay. The contrast of the text, all right, maybe even black, right? really, really high, because that's where you have text on image, text on the background. So that's really important. And then my suggestion would also be to have this instead of being here, so it feels like the serif continues to go. It would be nice to have this actual block of text. Let me just look this thing. Actual block of text somewhere in the middle here. Okay, and then you can bring this up here. All right. Oh, I see. That's how you created the dividing division. Right. So I'll bring this up. All right.
Yeah, okay.
So this is good. Right. I've told you, when you start copying, you learn how to design from copying, right? So copy much more, and you get better as a designer. Okay. So yeah, as if this is what we have, right? So it's just, it has all the information in different places. So your eyes are literally going all around, right? Instead of having everything in one place. Right. The serif, the serif, the serif, the serif in continues June. The serif June continues in. So this is really hard to read. The serif continues in June. Oh, I see now, right? Well, truthfully, I've seen some banners that are actually like that are done by big people, right? So because of what I asked you to adapt, I think maybe that this would actually make people look at it and just like be curious to see what is there. So that's another angle to it, which might not always work, but I mean, it's worth a shot. Okay. Another thing I would also suggest, obviously, this is based off of futurism, right? Okay, we're only able to do two. So I'll suggest you align this to the right, right, so that we have this angle here, and then bring it in a little. Okay, alignment. Okay. But yeah, I think this is okay. This is actually okay. Well done. See what I always say.
Thank
Align this thing to one side, so that you adjust what you are using to one side alone instead of the whole rectangle. Right? I mean, it's not compulsory, but it's just I think it just makes work easier. Okay, so yeah, well done. On to the next one. KDS, this is really nice. I like the arrangement of the text and the space in between. Note to self display, really sweet. Codion Design Studio. My only challenge with this font is that this font doesn't do very well in all caps. Okay, so imagine you're going to have HODION, right? Right, so this works better than what it was before because it's a script font. You don't use script font in all caps, right? And then I would suggest having this to just be like under this. Honestly, I feel like we can do without this, right? Personally, for simplicity's sake, right? But obviously, it's not a wrong thing to have. So yeah, it's fine. Position, center, very sweet, center line, really delicious. I love it. Codion Art Studio, so the same thing, right? Small text to make this work as a script font, right? Script fonts, you don't use script fonts in all caps. It's going to be chaotic. Okay. So this is the icon. This is this the abstract mark? Codion, are you here? Okay, don't worry, I can't hear you. I think your network is really bad. Okay, I can't hear you at all. Well, I'll just make comments on this. I'm trying to think of what to see because this looks like an abstract mark, but it's obviously a compilation of letters that just, Yeah, so I think it's actually a thing. Yeah, I think it's a thing. Oh, yeah, so and this is emblem, right? So I like this, except this square just feels out of place. So if you want to do something like this, you probably want to use like a badge, right? So come to your elements. That's not the word. The word is not a badge. I'm trying to find the, yeah, so this is it. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a badge actually. So instead of that, you use something like this, okay, to achieve what you're trying to achieve. The problem with this now, it feels too busy, right? So if that's the case, then we want to change this to something simpler, right? But just like this, or you can actually even create your badge by yourself by using your elements as your rectangle elements to do the other parts. Okay, so you have, okay, so this works actually. Well, no, it doesn't work. The style is too different. So you'd have something like, obviously, apart from changing this to, okay, let's see that. Sorry, which would be alone, right? Number one. Okay, and then so here what you want to do is just create a rectangle, or no need to create a rectangle, just duplicate this, right? How we just duplicate this to the center, duplicate, right? Stretch down, so you have this, right? Then you duplicate this again, and then position this to the not center, sorry, to the middle, right? Group, drag to the back, back. Okay. Now what you need is just a rectangle. How many of you realize what I'm doing now? Anybody?
Yes, I do. Oh my God.
Okay.
Wow.
So you can literally just make your own by yourself, and nobody's going to know you need it because it doesn't look good. Let's zoom in, right? I need to change the color to something more suitable. Oh yeah, so the one at the back is supposed to be a little lighter. This is something. Uh, Hold on, sorry. Let me check this badge and see what it looks like. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, I think I'm lost. Let me figure it out. Rectangular badge. Always remember that you use your friends. Vector. Ah, so this is what I'm trying to do, right? So this is rectangle I'm trying to make. Okay. So I'm just going to go back to my Canva and have this as my reference. So the triangle is meant to be here, not there. So I'll change the shape, color, so that I can see clearly. No, something blue. Okay. Just to see exactly how it was. Okay. So this is what it's supposed to look like. So Oh, no, it's supposed to be here. Right? It's supposed to be from this edge. Right triangle or heart. So I'm going to rotate this. Okay, 180. And there we go. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Okay, and then rotate it. To achieve the exact same thing on this side. Okay. So all I need to do now is align it to this, ensure that I have the exact same height, exact same distance. When I bring it here, I just need to adjust the height to ensure that it starts. Okay, so I can adjust the height. I have to do this first and then drag it out. Okay, so rotate this and achieve my goal, right? So yeah, basically this is just the idea, but you can refine it when you're done, right? So just to create your own actual badge-ish, right? Yeah, so that's that. Well done, Kodian. Denning for everybody. Okay, Kodian, really like this font. So yeah, same correction, E. Right. And for scripts, it's not very, sorry, doesn't work very well when you space it out, right? So just reduce the spacing. Okay. Just for script fonts, right? They work very well with typefaces like sans serif and serif fonts. Okay, so yeah, this is good. I like this. Now my problem is, well, not problem. My challenge is this looks like an image, and then I don't know if it's going to work as a vector file. But of course, when we go to remove the BG, we have all that we need. So no problem. My second challenge is it feels like this one's face is cutting out. Okay, and then this image doesn't exactly portray denim because it's looking feminine. So you want to speak to your client and ensure that you're portraying the exact idea, not just your client, but also to, I mean, I'm watching it, I'm seeing it, and I feel like I'm getting two different vibes. Okay, and then for everybody, doesn't mean every female body or every human person. If it's every human person and I'm seeing a girl, is it really for everybody? It's for every type body type. I'm seeing one body type here. So if it's for everybody, then you don't want to put a body type so that everyone feels like they can be a part of it. All right, so think about that as well. Married weddings, yeah, very simple actually, and straight to the point. I like it. Nice, this is nice. I like it. Just some minor edits. OTJ. So what you want to do is for these sides, right? You want to ensure that you align everything to the left. Okay. And after aligning them, position them to the left as well, because the concept of this thing was creating like a square, an invisible square. And another thing I've always mentioned is for your icons, your everything to align, right? So in this case, you don't have to do all three of them because it's literally the exact same thing. So instead of repeating it, just reduce the size of this and have all three of them lined up on the same place. Okay. Right. So this will work perfectly. Okay. And then what you want to do is bring this down to the edge where you see the rectangle thing is working perfectly. All right. And then this, bring this to the rectangle as well. Where is this rectangle now? Can you see it? So I'm just going to do this up here. Okay. So we're good. What I'll suggest is for this, just bring the serif up here. Okay. So that, and I've told you the font size for this, the serif was Bebas. Then I spaced it out, right? So you have letter spacing with the serif. Okay. And the font I used was, I think I remember. Serif fonts, it's called, it wasn't notice serif. I'm sure we're already tired, so I'm just going to go off after this and then we'll continue. And then I'll share another assignment for in advance for Thursday, in advance for Wednesday. So our next class on Wednesday, that's the day after tomorrow. Okay. No, it's not this far. It's a popular serif font. Okay. So I think it's going to be taking too long. So I'm just going to move on. I'll figure it out later. Okay, you know what? Let's just move on, right? So we can just keep this here. Now the challenge is that because this is center aligned and you don't want to change the direction of this thing, well, you can keep this here and keep this here, right? Just for the sake of the rectangle we're working with, right? Okay. But because typically I'm assuming that the serif is a logo, right? And you don't want to mess with the arrangement. So yeah, it's fine for it to stay here. Okay, except I just want you want it to have some breathing space on of its own. Okay. So yeah, this works, right? And then another thing is font size. You want to reduce this so that all the font size, nobody's intimidating everybody. Okay. So yeah. Futurism, right? The Serif 2021 June. Yeah, so first things first, this same correction that I made with this, okay? The size of this thing should be very, very proportional to the size of your text, all right? And then the background image doesn't seem to be very suitable. I have a lot to say about that, but we're already out of time, so let me just go off really quickly. This would be good if this was also centralized along, right? And then this is like an orphan. Remember I told you about orphan and widows. So ensure you don't have any orphans or widows, okay? Either you do something like this, where it's 3, even this is better, but not this. So you do this, where it feels like all your text on 2 lines or 3 lines that are very coherent, not 2 proper lines and 1 word at the end of it. All right. I see this looks like very, very much like Swiss, right? And I can see the only challenge is the circle is skewed, right? And it's very, very opposite of Swiss. The circles need to be concentric. Concentric means if I create a circle like this, right? Here's a circle, circle. All right. If this is the axis of my circle, and this circle is yellow, okay? And I'm creating another circle, okay? This circle is going to start from the same radius. If I change the color to blue, you'll see that they have the same radius, right? So I'm creating another circle. The circle needs to, they need to have the same radius, basically. All right, so that's one thing that characterizes the style. Okay, so instead of skewing the shape, you need to be concentric. It needs to go equidistant. All right, so now for me to achieve something similar to what's in the Art Deco style, then I'll now have to start using a lot of lines to blow off some parts of this. Okay, so because of time, I'm just going to move on really quickly. So that's one of the major things here. And then right aligned, center aligned, right, then left. Okay, so if you look at the international, the Swiss style, the arrangement wasn't that disorganized. Okay. As a matter of fact, let me show you what the text, the one I shared, look like, so you can see, so you can have an idea. So look.
Please, I wish to know how that was done.
How what was done?
The design, the Swiss that was done earlier, the one above, like
This?
yes, like you can't see my hand, sorry, like the linings.
Okay, so they're just
Right.
different circles. Can you see?
Okay.
So she layered all the circles to make it, to give it an effect of white and black. Do you
Okay.
understand? Yeah, which is kind of
Yes.
similar to what I was doing here, layering them on top of each other, right? So imagine that I made this, if I made this white, for example, you think this was the background. Do you understand? Just because I made it white. Do you get? Do you get?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. So see the alignment, very, very sweet alignment. All right. So ensure that you keep your alignments very sweet, just like that. Okay. So I'd assume you do left alignment so that it can be aligned with this. Okay. Position to left. All right. And then same thing here. And then arrange all these ones too, so that they're all aligned. And then yeah, so that's it. All right. Thank you. I'll continue from here next week. And we are going to, all right, let me stop.
Wednesday.
My screen. Yeah, on Wednesday. So we're going to move into designing the different assets for your clients, right, from next week. And I need you to please, I need everyone to have their logos. It's very possible that if you don't have your logo for your clients, you will not enjoy the next class. All right. And if you don't, like, I really want everyone to move at this pace, at my pace, so that we can finish up with something tangible at the end of the course. Okay, so please make sure you have your logo by Wednesday. I'll make comments on this before we do the actual work. So we're going to design a business card, we're going to design a flyer, we're going to design different things for the brand. All right. Any questions before we close? No questions. All right. So thank you guys, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I trust that everything happens today. Let me know if you have any issues. I'll upload the video for those who might not have been able to follow along. So I'll send the link on WhatsApp.
A quick question.
Yeah.
The link or the links rather for all classes. Yeah, I know we have. I think we have from class 1 to 8. I think submerged together. But is it going to be available? Like, is there a time frame to it, or it's open? I know previously it's always like a week.
Yeah.
Like the link is usually available for a week. But I'm asking, opened, like.
Yeah,
no
well, right
time
now
limit.
it's still open, so it might be open till the end of next month, I think, and then I'll take care of it.
They are.
Yeah.
I sent a link for my logos, and I don't know if you have seen it.
Yeah, I saw it, but I'll make comments on them before we start the next class.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other
Happy
questions?
birthday once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, guys. Have a good night, okay?